Okay, welcome back. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about how to import a bunch of different files and how to organize them within Premiere. So one thing that Premiere doesn't do very well is auto-organizing your files. So creating a manual system that you use every single time when you're editing in Premiere is just the way you want to do it. So what I typically do is I have a template that I use for, let's say, a specific client or every time I make a YouTube video, and that template has some organization and some folders and some files in it already. So it already has maybe my lower thirds I use every time, music I use all the time, some effects like arrows or overlays or text effects, just so I don't have to go and make those every single time. And making a template comes with you just making a bunch of videos and then realizing what you use a lot. And so don't worry about making a template maybe at the very beginning, but after you make a few videos in Premiere, you'll probably want to make a template, and the folders and file structures can follow this similar system. So I'm going to go ahead and build one from scratch right now. So let's jump back over into Premiere here. I did import a bunch of stuff into this project, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete all of that. So we have an empty project in Premiere right now, and the first thing I'm going to do is make some bins. Sequences are the most important thing within Premiere, and so you're probably going to want to have that be at the top. So what I do is I do 01 underscore sequences. Then within that, I always like to have my most recent sequence in there, and then the rest of them in an archive. So if I have that folder selected, new bin, then I go archive, and I slowly move things into there that I'm not using anymore, but I still want to reference. So an example of this would be I make a revision for a client, I send it to them, then they have another bunch of feedback and I have to make another revision. I'll go ahead, duplicate the sequence, and then take the previous one and put it in the archive, and then I just have my most recent one sitting there in the sequences folder. So that would be a reason why you'd want to have an archive. The next thing I do is I go ahead and go video. So underscore video for number 2, and that's because this is a video editing program. I'm always going into video files. And you can have more folders for, let's say I have an A cam and a B cam, and then I use my iPhone, and then I have a bunch of B-roll, and I have some screen recordings. Those are things that really are project dependent, but you can make as many levels as you want for this organization. But trust me, it'll really help when you're working on something that's just huge with hundreds of video files. If you just take a few seconds to put this kind of organization in your project from the beginning, and then you're just diligent about moving the files into these places, or like I said earlier, making a template so these folders are already in whatever Premiere project you open so you don't have to make it again, it'll save so much time. So next after video is audio. So I go ahead and do audio, and that can also have subfolders for, let's say I just recorded a bunch of background noise that I wanted to be able to add to my video if I needed to. If you want to put your music in there, you could. If you have voiceover that has no video that goes with it, you could put it there. So you can have a bunch of subfolders for that. Next though, I usually go with graphics, GFX, so graphics. So this is lower thirds, any sort of text that I made in another program like Photoshop and I'm bringing in, anything like that. Then I go ahead and do stills, and these are images. So this could be photos I'm using, it could be screenshots, anything that is like a JPEG or a PNG that I'm going to be using in my video, I go ahead and do that. Then I will have music. That's another option where you could put it in audio, but sometimes I just like to have all my music separate so I can get to it a little quicker. Then I go ahead and do 07 sound effects. So this can be little noises that happen when things pop up on the screen, or like you recorded a bunch of sound effects and you want to bring them in. That's the next thing you do. And you can go down as many as you want. You could go all the way to 99 if you wanted and have a bunch of different folders. And why I put the numbers in front of them is just so when it's sorted by name, there is some organization to this. It's not just like I have to go find the video folder, I have to go find the audio folder. It's in order by number, and it's just a little bit more helpful to do that. So 99, or I just use 09 a lot of the time, is miscellaneous, because there's going to be things you import that don't necessarily fit into any of these, and so it's just nice to have a miscellaneous folder. So you've set up your folder structure. Now let's go ahead and import things. So we'll go ahead and go video. I'm going to go ahead and import these 2 video files that we were using earlier. So those will be under the video section for, let's go music. Let me go find my music that I use. Let's go Dropbox here, TV. Let's see, common. Just grab this folder here. And another thing you can do that's helpful is when you're in any panel, if you push the button above tab, so it's like a little tick mark, a little tilde key, that'll make whatever panel you're hovering over full screen. Even the audio waveforms or the toolbar, but it's really helpful when you're in your project and you're just trying to do some organization. And then if you hit that button again, it'll go back. So, oops, I was hovering over the wrong thing. So let's keep doing some organization here. Stills, let me just go find Dropbox, images, and I have a bunch of death to stock photos. Let's not take that many. Let's just do like 5, bring those in. And you can start to see how having this all organized is really, really helpful. So let's go back into Dropbox. We'll go TV, common here. I can pull in some of my sound effects here. So this movie countdown is one thing that I use a lot to beep between clips. Let's go ahead and go graphics, and I can pull in a bunch of different things that I use for lower thirds. So let's go ahead and scroll down and do these lower thirds here, just in case I need them. And you can start to see how this organization is going to really help later when I'm like, oh, where's that graphic? And yeah, you can always type in the search box, lower third, and it'll show you where things are. So that's helpful. You can also change these colors that it sets things to. So you can see video I have set to go blue, or sequences are blue, video is purple, images are pink, audio is green, and these are just the defaults. And you can change individual files by actually labeling them with a different color, but I just use the defaults, and it is a little visual reminder of what something is. So that's basically what I do to import all my footage, organize it, put it into different places. And the last thing, I guess, would be if I make a new sequence and I go ahead and make a 1080p sequence here, you can either make a custom sequence or take something from one of their presets, or what is usually the best thing to do is just, instead of making a new sequence this way, go ahead and hit tilde there. If I just take a video file and drag it over, the sequence will then have settings that match up with the file that you just imported. So it'll have the resolution, it'll have the frame rate, it'll have all that kind of stuff automatically made into a sequence. And then you can see the sequence was just made here. So I can just drag that up. And then let me show you an example of how I would make a new revision. So let's say I completed something here. I would go ahead and duplicate this. I would call this new one, let's say V2, and I would call the previous one V1, and then I would say, oh, I'm done with that one. I'm gonna move that into the archive. So I can minimize this archive, and I always just see the most recent version. So that's a little bit on organization, importing your footage, putting it in good places. This isn't the most exciting part of video editing, but if you're doing a big file or you're making a lot of videos, making this into a template, having the things there that you use every single time, it's so helpful. It saves a ton of effort and stress just trying to search for where everything is. So thanks so much for watching this one. I'll see you in the next one where we'll actually get into doing a little bit of video editing.